Peace, Hotep, and Amen-Ra. This is your brother Radio 1 coming back at you again with another video of truth and historical reality. Now, the name of this video is Lies of Wudjau and Chief X Debunked. The Egyptians were black. Now, concerning Chief X, I will be brief and state Chief X is nothing more than an uneducated, self-hating, pseudo-delusional Negro and liar who has a dislike for the truth. But let's see what Chief X had to say in his own words.
It was just real, and I know everybody understood it. People may act like they didn't understand it, but I agree with it. It's all the points I've ever been making over the last year. That's all I've been trying to get people to see. I may have a different technique. See, I'm a generalist. I don't know shit about dynasties in Egypt. I couldn't tell you what dynasty was what. I just know basic shit. That's why I tell people, people know my moniker. I've never been fake and acted like I was a scholar. I've always said that common sense science. Meaning I use my common sense.
So there you have it. Chief X admitted in his own words he's not a scholar. He knows nothing about the Egyptian dynasties. He does not read or study. So in other words, Chief X admitted everything he has been saying are lies based on his own imagination and has nothing to do with historical records and sources. But he made it all up based on his quote-unquote common sense. Newsflash, Chief X. When it comes to the field of history and academia, the truth is in the historical records, artifacts, and primary sources, not your common sense. You can keep your common sense to yourself. But let's see how silly you sound. For example, if you take a test or an exam in school and answer those questions on that test based on your common sense, guess what? You're going to fail that test. But if you answer those questions based on what you studied and what you know for fact, you're going to pass that test for sure. And that is why your common sense means nothing, Chief X. But my main purpose for making this video is because Chief X posted a video about the race of the ancient Egyptians made by this guy named Wudjau. And Chief X praised this video. So I'm like, if Chief X praised this video, then something has got to be wrong with it. So I looked at the video, and I must be honest and say, this fraudulent video was very deceitful, full of contradictions and misinformation, and Wudjau lied to the people. But that's why I'm here, to expose the lies told by Wudjau, correct them, and tell you the truth. And yes, Wudjau, when it comes to the race and skin color of the ancient Egyptians, this is my lane, not yours. I own it and I earned it. You did not. But let us expose the first lie told by Wudjau and correct it with the truth. And that lie is this image shown on Wudjau's video titled Color Depiction in Scholarly Racism of Ancient Egypt. And the image here is known as the Book of Gates, Races of Mankind from the tomb of Seti I. And you have both the original image on the right and the rendering on the left. But the rendering image here shown by Wudjau is a fraudulent, inaccurate image that is overly tinted and brightened up to make the Egyptians look lighter than what they were. And I tried looking for this image online, but could not find it. So this led me to believe this image may have been distorted and plagiarized by Wudjau himself. But Wudjau certainly deceived the people with this image. But truth be told, here is the original, more accurate rendering image of the Book of Gates that matches the original tomb image. And it shows the Egyptians with a dark, reddish brown, mahogany skin complexion and wearing a white linen kilt. And many African Americans, East Africans, and West Africans have this dark reddish brown complexion. As you can see here, the West African sister standing next to the statue head of Queen Hatshepsut. And you can see she has the same phenotype and same reddish brown skin as Queen Hatshepsut. But this is the true image Wudjau failed to show. But the truth has been shown here and only here. And Wudjau also made the claim this image from the tomb of Seti I proves Egypt was a mixed race melting pot of Asiatics, Libyans, and Nubians. But truth be told, this image actually speaks for itself and does not need the false interpretation of Wudjau. And as we can see, this image actually disagrees with Wudjau's claim that Egypt was a mixed melting pot of Asiatics, Libyans, and Nubians, because the Egyptians themselves are shown as one color, and they are distinct from the Asiatics, Libyans, and Nubians, proving Wudjau is absolutely wrong. And if Egypt was a mixed melting pot of Asiatics, Libyans, and Nubians, then that means the Egyptians themselves did not exist because their land was inhabited by Asiatics, Libyans, and Nubians. And Wudjau completely took the Egyptians out of the picture and contradicted himself. So it is clear to me Wudjau does not want the Egyptians to be the Egyptians, but he really wants the Egyptians to be these Asiatics and Libyans. But as we can see, the Egyptians did depict themselves, and we should respect what the Egyptians showed without the corruption of Wudjau's false interpretation. But once again, Wudjau has deceived and lied to the people, but you got the truth here and only here. And now let us focus on the next lie told by Wudjau. And that is these images of Queen Nefertari that shows her as black and yellow. Now, according to Wudjau, the black skin on Nefertari is not literal or not real. But this is the most absurd Eurocentric nonsense I ever heard. And surprisingly, this is coming from a black man. But let's focus on this image. So according to the delusional views of Wudjau, everything Nefertari is wearing, from her white dress, her golden crown, and red waist belt, is literal. But her black skin cannot be literal? Are you serious? But if the black skin is not literal, then what is this, Wudjau? We can clearly see this woman from the South Sudan is literally black skin. And this is exactly how Queen Nefertari would have looked when she was alive. And this shows and proves black skin is literal, and Wudjau lied. So it is clear to me Wudjau does not want Queen Nefertari to look like her original black self, but he is in favor of the lighter skinned yellow image of Nefertari, which brings me to my next point. So, question is, why is Nefertari depicted as a different color on some images? And why would Wudjau fail to explain this? But truth be told, the reason why Nefertari is depicted as yellow on this image is because this image is from the tomb known as TT16 that is dated to the 19th dynasty, which was over 250 years after the death of Nefertari. And this is why Nefertari is depicted with a different skin tone, because the tomb was made over 250 years after her lifetime. But the images that shows her during her lifetime, such as this image from the tomb of Neb-Amun in the stele of Ari Nefer, depicts her as her natural black self. And the majority of the images depicting Nefertari shows her with her black skin tone. And if most of the images depict her as black, then we can conclude Nefertari was indeed literally black skin, and we should respect that without the corrupt opinions of Wudjau and racist Eurocentrics. But once again, you got the truth here and only here. But let us also focus on this image shown by Wudjau that depicts Amenhotep I as yellow-skinned and Asiatic-looking, which Wudjau also failed to explain. So the question is, why is Amenhotep I depicted this way? Because this image of Amenhotep I comes from the tomb known as TT359 that is dated to the 20th dynasty during the reign of Pharaoh Ramesses III, which was over 300 years after the death of Amenhotep I. And this is why Amenhotep I is depicted this way, because the tomb was made by artists who lived 300 years after his lifetime. But as we can see, the images that shows Amenhotep I during his lifetime clearly depicts him as his original dark reddish brown complexion. And again, Wudjau deceives the people by failing to explain why Amos Nefertari and Amenhotep I were depicted different. But you got the truth here and only here. So there you have it. Wudjau, in his blatant attempt to whitewash and lighten the ancient Egyptians, failed miserably. In his attempt to make the population of ancient Egypt a mixed melting pot of Asiatic and Libyan foreigners, also failed miserably. And everything Wudjau said was made up and based on pure imagination, not supported by archaeology, geography, or historical records. But still, the lies of Wudjau and Chief X has been exposed. The ancients have spoken, and the truth has been revealed. And my advice to you, Wudjau, apologize to the people for lying to them. Humble yourself and admit to your wrongs. Get your facts straight and tell the truth next time. And my advice to you, Chief X, stop wasting your time speaking on a subject you know nothing about, and get this fantasy out of your head that you're going to destroy the Kemetic community, because the only person you're actually destroying is yourself by constantly embarrassing yourself and making a fool out of yourself because you lack the knowledge and education. And recognize and know for certain racism is alive and ancient Egypt is being lied about. So either join us in this fight against the whitewashing of ancient Egypt, or just leave this subject alone, Chief X, and go do what make you happy and focus on what's going to benefit your life rather than trying to destroy a community who's not hearing you. And with that said, this is your brother Radio 1 saying, until next time, Egypt stays in Africa and the Egyptians stay black. Peace, Hotep, and Amen Ra.